like that who are in this kind of seemingly free-flowing bodhisattva type state. I think that's another example of them almost like reaching up with their finger and touching and connecting with this universal vibration that we refer to as God. You can experience that when you're writing certain songs. Like I've always said that the best songs that I've written are the ones that happen really quickly and the ones that write themselves. Yeah, it's a pain, that isn't it? It doesn't matter. It's a kind of small plane, I think. Those are the songs that tend to resonate most with people. You know, I remember when I wrote a song, Crazy, where it was written really quickly. I mean, literally in about 10 minutes, everything from beginning to end. And that's one of the songs till this day that resonates with people more so than my other songs, or a song like Kiss from a Rose Again, which was written very, very quickly, where I almost wasn't conscious of writing it, and it had to, and it almost wrote itself in a funny way. Now, if you were to ask me what any of those songs mean lyrically, I couldn't really tell you, but they just felt right and they kind of resonate in a certain way. I think that's probably the closest, in terms of my music writing, that's the closest I've been to that state that I described, where you're kind of doing without doing, where you're almost tapping in again to that thing that you can't control, that you can become more skilled with practice to kind of to connect with it, but you can't really control it, and it is what it is. It's infinite. It's you know, it's beyond words. You can't really describe what it is, but you know that feeling when you have it. And so, yeah, I guess it does happen with music as well, but it certainly happens with performing. You know, there are times where, you know, you may not be feeling too well, you're a bit under the weather, your voice isn't too good, or you've got some kind of ailment, and you think to yourself, well, how am I going to get through this particular show tonight? But then you let go. You just let go, and you end up having the best show and singing the best you've ever done, because there's something else that takes place. It's almost as if when you give up and you give up trying to control the situation, and you just let go. You're in this kind of free-flowing state, and I think that, you know, I'm not saying that is my version of bodhisattva, but I certainly think I'm closer to that feeling, because I think you can get closer to that vibration, just like you would be able to get close to any vibration. And I think,
what you think people feel when they go to church, or when they pray, or when they go and do the songs in the cathedral and they have that
yes.
euphoria?
Yeah, I do think that's what people feel. I don't know whether they interpret it as that, but my understanding is that's what they feel. I think places like churches and, you know, places of worship are literally places where people can focus. Some people need that. Some people cannot do that at home. Some people need that confirmation and the affirmation of going to church, going to a holy place, going to a congregation with others to help them focus that energy more. The doggy. That's not God.
Where's the AK-47?
Hello.
Yeah.
Fido, you're about to meet God if you don't shut up. Over the years, I have chosen to see God in people. You know, I don't think that, for me certainly, I don't think that God is this kind of unobtainable figure that's somewhere in the heavens, and, you know, with a white beard, or I don't think God is necessarily a Buddha sitting in a temple somewhere in Tibet, or what have you. I think God is all those things. You know, I think that those are access points, really, to allow us to connect with this energy. And for me, I can see those access points quite clearly in my children. I can see it in my wife. You know, I always say that children are full of these little miracles. You know, people say, well, it's a responsibility having children, and there's so much that you have to give up, and there's so much that you have to change about your life. I actually think it's the other way around. You know, children come here on a mission to save you, and it is really a mission from God in many ways, because they're full of these little miracles. They're full of these access points, whether it's watching your daughter look at a flower for the first time. You know, that sense of discovery, if you choose to see it, is something that really slows you down. And I think that's probably the main problem with all of us, is that we're going at such a fast rate that we get ahead of ourselves, and we sometimes miss God or evidence of God all around us, and therefore we're further away from that ability to connect at will and randomly. So right here, whenever I need to connect with God, I always look at this thing I hold around my neck, and you know, sometimes it's a photograph or a photo album that I carry with me. But if you look right here, that's 4 examples of God. On the reverse side, that's another one, and there's another one, and there's yet another one. And there are 2 on the back. That's my wife and I. And I think that you know, if I'm constantly reminded by those access points, I need look no further. In looking at at the eyes of any of our children, or looking into my wife's eyes, or even looking into the eyes of a really good friend, I think that's all the evidence of God I need. And you know, I think that's also one of the great things about kids, is that they have this uncanny ability to slow you down, but slow you down in a good way. They you know, when you see your daughter kind of spending time in the garden and looking at flowers, or smelling flowers, and just being fascinated by them, because you know, to her it's all new, and they are this kind of miraculous thing, and then you slow down, and you become amazed at watching her sense of discovery. I think that is an opportunity to connect with God, to slow down and realize you know, the meaning of life and what we're actually here for. So but then some people maybe either don't have that access point or those access points, or maybe it's not just enough. I don't know. But you know, I'm all for people going to a place of worship, you know, because I'll do it myself if I need to. But more often than not, I think I can find that connection that I'm looking for just by having my family, my wife and kids around me. I think that's pretty much all the evidence I need in order to kind of connect with God. But if you need to go to a holy place, then you know, then that's perfect. The phone rang, and my son. It was my son going, "Baby, baby, can I go outside?" And he's 2.5, and he knows every song on my album. And that was the first thing he said. Not hello, but he was singing, because that's his favorite song on the album. And for me, that is such a kind of, you know, that's such a beautiful, indescribable feeling, and further evidence of God, you know, because of the emotion that you can that it allows you to feel, and most importantly, it slows you down. It stops you getting ahead of yourself and connects you with the fundamentals of life and the fundamentals of this thing that we call God.